హలో నమస్తే ఎవరు ఏమే తమాషా మీది మరి గరీజ్గా ఇప్పుడు ఎన్నిసార్లు ఫోన్ చేస్తున్నాడు సబ్ రిజిస్ట్రార్ ఇది పద్ధతే ఇట్స్ నాట్ గుడ్ ఎందుకంటే అందరూ ఇంకా టీఆర్ఎస్ ఎంపీలు అందరూ ఇంట్లో ఉన్న టైంలో ఫోన్ చేసిండు వాళ్ళందరూ వేరే పనులు వచ్చింది ఈరోజు అందరూ ఆయన మొత్తం చెప్పింది సబ్ రిజిస్ట్రార్ బయట పైసలు లెక్క పెట్టి ఇవ్వడం వాళ్ళకు వాళ్ళకి తీసి పంపించి
Hear me, I guess. I can cancel the other meeting just to make sure that it is. I mean the parallel link which was there.
No. Anyway, now it's too late. I have sent the link to the one WhatsApp, the correct link.
I think we should start now.
Yeah, we'll start.
Okay.
You got four of us already.
Okay, Mudit, why don't you start and then tell the agenda, and it is being broadcasted anyway. Mr. Reddy, it is there. You are all set?
Yes sir, we are live to the world, no problem sir, please go ahead.
Okay, so Mudit, start and then we'll invite others in parallel.
So before I start, I would request everyone to in the panel to kindly switch on their cameras. And welcome everyone. So this is an important discussion that we are hosting today. Sorry for all the glitches that we experienced because of the Zoom bombing, the reasons unknown or probably known. With 5 states, UP, Punjab, Goa, Manipur, Uttarakhand going into elections in coming months, and the mainstream media not having the discussion on one of the most important topics about malpractices in elections. We would like to invite you to participate in a very pertinent and timely discussion about the report. The Citizens Commission on Election has come up with a report. We will focus on the findings of this report and how we can increase the awareness in the public discourse and general media about electoral process and ongoing malpractices, and provide a way to bring a change as soon as the next elections. Please feel free to send us suggestions regarding this discussion. All of the panel consisting of distinguished speakers, we are very excited to present you the learnings and solutions to this huge and structural problem. On this note, I would like to hand over my co-host Ashutosh, who will now be introducing us to the panel speakers and will start the discussion. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Thank you very much, and thanks to you all for coming and joining. And this is an important discussion, as Mudit said. And Mr. Dev Sahayam has worked very hard, and his reports are on the websites. We will post soon after. And his new book has also come on the electoral policies and the ongoing issues. Subhashish Banerjee is the next speaker who is going to talk about the EVM voting and its issues and its limitations. He has a wonderful video, if you search on YouTube, which is amazing. And his research is unprecedented at how EVMs are not really like the right tool for our electoral process. Then after that, Mr. Kannan Gopinathan, who is quite famous, and he's going to talk about how VVPAT is being misused and how it should be used to fix the problems of limitations of EVM. Then Mr. Qureshi, who's going to join us shortly, and he was our Chief Election Commissioner, and he knows quite ins and outs. He will give some idea. Mr. Jabar Sarkar is the next speaker, who is going to talk about his experiences in West Bengal and how he really pushed back on the malpractices or the use of power. And Then Venkatesh Naik, who has done an amazing work on the RTI and how that can be used to fix the problems or limitations of the whole electoral process. And so I'll start with Mr. Devasahayam. Please start, give your overview of the whole thing and what your book is all about, what your report is all about, and please. And each participant, the panelist has 5 to 7 minutes or a little bit more to give this. And after that, we will have the discussions. Mr. Devasahayam, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malavia and Mr. Shukla. Thank you for this opportunity. Unfortunately, this technical glitch has prevented a lot of people from joining in. Doesn't matter. We will correct them and take it forward. Now, this is an important topical subject now. Now, India keeps on claiming that India is the world's largest democracy. India is the mother of all democracies. But essentially, we have not really been able to look within and introspect so far. What kind of democracy do we have? And in order to do that, you must look at our electoral system. It is only through the electoral system democracy is coming. Without electoral system, there is no democracy. And this electoral system has been going on for the last 70 years. Our first election was 1952. Now it is 2022. Lot of changes have taken place. And lot of reforms also have taken place, changes have taken place. From manual, it has become technology oriented, the whole lot. But till now, no due diligence has taken place. And it has resulted in the electoral system atrophy. That's the word I would like to use. The electoral system in India has atrophied. So some of us got together in civil society. We tried to convince the Election Commission to do a proper study and do reforms and improve things. They never bothered. They have been very hostile. We went to the Supreme Court. They are also not bothered. Democracy is the lowest priority. As far as Election Commission in India and Supreme Court of India, democracy is the lowest priority. For them, it is an exercise. It's an event in which some candidates get elected. They form the government and run the government the way they want. They're not bothered about the people's mandate. They're not bothered about the integrity of elections. They are not even bothered about the basic democracy principles. So we got together and set up this Citizens Commission on Elections and went into 6 distinct areas. Election has got 6 distinct areas. Number 1 is the electoral roll. The electoral roll needs to be inclusive, and it must not exclude anybody. It must be also must have high integrity. This is the basic requirement of electoral roll. Second was how the polling is done. Now the polling is, for the last 20 years or so, we are polling in a machine. It's electronic voting, EVM machine. And recently they have brought in the voter verified paper trail also. So it is machine oriented. The question is, it may be accurate, it's machine, but does it comply with basic democracy principles? Because these are not trade union elections. These are not student union elections. This transfer of sovereignty, citizen sovereignty to the elected representatives. So, does it adhere to basic democracy principles? Very simple. Professor Subhashis will elaborate it because he is an authority on this. He says the caste as intended. The voter must know whether his or her vote is cast as she intends it. It is in the machine. She does not know. She can't see. Second is it recorded as cast? She can't see. And is it counted as recorded? She can't see. Everything is in the machine. So fundamental, machine may be the most excellent thing in the world. I am not a technical man. So it does not comply with any of the democracy principles. Third aspect is money and criminal power. It has a level playing field. Everyone must have a chance. Every citizen who has completed age 25 can compete in an election and win an election. In fact, as per the Constitution and the Representatives People's Act, there are no political parties. Political parties are not recognized in the Constitution of India. It's an association of individuals. We can run India's democracy without any political party. That's the Constitution has no mention of political party. So the important thing is there must be a level playing field. Criminals should not be there to rule us. Their main job is to legislate, make laws, and wealthy money bags cannot rule us. So this is a third factor. Fourth factor is as the election takes place, the model code of conduct has been brought in by the Election Commission with consultation with the political parties, elaborate. But is there any compliance at all? Is there bias towards the ruling party? That is the fourth aspect. Also the role of media. What kind of media is there? What kind of role they are playing? What kind of mind management is taking place? And the sixth is the functioning of the Election Commission itself. Are they an umpire? Are they sort of kind of independent umpire? So all these we went into great detail based on international and national depositions, research papers, and we have come out with this report after 2 years of work. And after that, we went through another process of research. The CCE report was based on the 2019 election. Then subsequently state elections took place. Bihar and other leading states. Recently, we had latest is West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. All the states also went to it. And we have done a case study of West Bengal. So all this, the book is contained. Through all this, what comes out is, to sum and substance, we are subject to questions afterwards. The electoral process is not at all, has lost its integrity. It is not fair at all. Lot of criminals come in. More than 30% of members of parliament are criminals, known declared criminals. And almost everybody are multi-millionaires. We are not getting the kind of leadership that we are looking for. And the electronic voting machine has created huge doubt in the minds of the people. Now, in order to solve that, they brought in VVPAT, voter verified paper trail. Now, Kannan Gopinathan will say he's an expert on that. He's not only a technocrat, he was a returning officer. He has conducted elections, and he knows the kind of the VVPAT, the kind of sort of disaster that VVPAT is causing. EVM, at least one could say it cannot be sort of tampered with, but he says VVPAT can be tampered with. It's a very serious matter. And nothing has been done. In order to, instead of solving the problem as far as the money power, government brings in an electoral bond through the back door, and now filthy rich, they are controlling the economy. Now, if you notice, since 2019, I am a student of economics. If you notice all the economic policies, it is favoring only the vulgar rich and killing the poor.
So, thank you, Mr. Devasayam. I think
I'm just completing it. So we have experts on this field now here. They will come out with now. Jabar Sarkar also has joined. He will be able to tell us what happened in West Bengal. So with this introduction, I would request the other panelists to come and give their expertise. And after that, we can go for a question and answer session, which can clarify things. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would like to ask Professor Banerjee to give his idea of EVM machines and why we need the VVPAT checking, which is Mr. Gopinathan's point. So, Professor Banerjee, why don't you start?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And yes, so it has been a privilege working with the Citizens Commission of Election for the last 2 years. I've learned a lot, and we looked at this issue in great detail. The issue is actually simple, really. So when you cast your vote by pressing a button, and it gets recorded in the electronic memory somewhere, there is no way for you to know what is recorded. You don't see the electronic memory, right? So if you forget the VVPAT for the time being and just consider an electronic voting machine, if you press 1, there is no guarantee that the machine has recorded 1, right? So it may show you one, but that doesn't mean that it is recorded one. So this is considered, and it's unanimously considered unsuitable for an election. There is a German Supreme Court ruling that banned it in Europe. In Germany, the other jurisdictions in Europe, the German Constitutional Court's ruling is not binding, but they have almost all have abided by this ruling. So this ruling is also operational in the United States, and just a machine voting without anything is clearly a no-no. So there is also this report of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States that recommended that no pure electronic voting system should be used in their presidential election. And that's what saved them. This concern was also raised to the Indian Supreme Court by Mr. Subramanian Swamy, that an EVM machine by itself is an unsuitable tool for recording people's mandate. And Supreme Court agreed. So in the case of Subramanian Swamy versus Election Commission of India, Supreme Court ruled that you must bring in VVPAT, which was Subramanian Swamy's demand. So VVPAT is a very old concept in computer science. And the reason for bringing in VVPAT is that without the VVPAT, you have to trust that the EVM is working correctly. And that trust in turn translates to trust on the Election Commission of India, on the technical experts, on the people who have manufactured it, the custody chain of people who transported the EVM, who installed the EVM. So this custody chain is unmodeled. And this custody chain is over 6 months, so it cannot be trusted. And Indian Supreme Court did recognize this, right? And it ordered that that you have to bring in VVPAT. And the whole objective of bringing in VVPAT is to make the voting system, the electronic voting system, hardware and software independent, right? So that the VVPAT system can be used to audit the hardware. Even if the EVM is malfunctioning, the VVPAT system can audit the hardware. There are two problems with the Indian VVPAT system, because of which this does not work quite as the way it should. First, the Indian VVPAT system is not truly voter verified. So when you press a button, what happens is that, let's suppose you press 1, the VVPAT slip prints something and which is visible to you for 7 seconds behind a glass. You can't touch it, right? And then it falls into a sack. Now, if you think that you press 1, but the VVPAT slip is showing 2, there is nothing that you can do because you can't touch the VVPAT slip. In 7 seconds, it will fall. So if you raise a dispute, nobody is going to believe you, right? And you have got a strange rule that if you can't prove that what you're selling is true, you have to pay a 5,000 rupees fine. Now, there is no way for you to prove it because what you saw has fallen into a sack and has got mixed with other VVPAT slips. So this is in principle an incorrect protocol, right? And a little bit of thought will tell you, and it's well understood in computer science, that the casting of the vote is not possible, right? Unless you get the VVPAT slip in your hand and put it in a box yourself, only then it can be cast as intended. So if you say you have to push another button to accept or reject, now if you couldn't trust the first button, how can you trust the second button? So that also does not work. So ultimately the VVPAT slip has to come into your hand and you have to put it in a box yourself, only then your vote is cast. No other protocol can work. And there's a famous paper by Ron Rivest, who is a Turing Award winner in computer science and who has deposed to our commission, is a professor of MIT and probably the world's leading figure on election voting technology, has proved a theorem that no other method of casting will have dispute resolution. Dispute resolution is not possible unless you take the ballot and put it in a box yourself. That's the first problem. The second problem is, which is the vote? Now you are conducting two parallel elections. One is the electronic record that is going in one path, and one is the VVPR slip that is going in another path. And they are not in one-to-one correspondence in a demonstrable way. Right? You can count the final tally and they may or may not match. Now, what will you do if they don't match? Right? So suppose they don't match. Is the VVPAT the correct tally or is the electronic one the correct tally? So this is not defined anyway, and which is a big problem. The way ECI is behaving, they seem to think that the electronic one is the correct tally, because they're not even counting the VVPATs before declaring the results, right? So that is an extremely problematic approach, right? Because for most of us, it thinks that the vote that I cast with the paper and I see and I put it in a box is the right vote. So ultimately, the VVPAT should take precedence over the electronic record, which I can't see. So this is a lacune in the Indian voting system. The third concern with the voter verification is that even if you think that the electronic one is the correct vote, how many EVM should you audit? So the Election Commission's original prescription was for only one polling booth, right? So one EVM typically holds in a polling booth 2,000 votes. So you audit only one EVM in an entire constituency. And this was the ruling. Then this again went to Supreme Court when political parties and civil society demanded maybe 50% or 30% should be counted. Supreme Court gave an order, no, not one, do 5 per constituency. Now, neither the 1 per constituency nor the 5 per constituency has any statistical basis. And nobody ever bothered to explain that what is the theory or what is the rationale behind counting either 1 or 5. And if you go by elementary statistics, and amazingly, this process is well understood. How to audit an election, there have been thousands of papers. There is a seminal paper by Professor Philip Stark from University of Berkeley, who has also deposed to our commission, right? And in a paper called Evidence-Based Election, he worked out the mathematics long back. And for the Election Commission of India not to pay heed to it is sort of surprising. Just to, in a minute to summarize the common sense wisdom behind this thing is that it cannot be independent of the margin. So suppose the highest vote getter has defeated the second highest vote getter by 99% of the votes. Then there is no point counting any EVM. Counting just a few VVPAT slips will do the job. But on the other hand, if the difference is only 1 vote, then there is no other option but to count every VVPAT, 100% counting, right? So this is elementary common sense, and there is a statistical formula that given the margin of vote, how many you should count, and all it takes is to use that. So our recommendation is use the EVM, no problem. Make the system hardware and software independent. No point in tinkering with hardware, this connected there, that connected there. All that doesn't solve any problem. Make the VVPAT system voter verified. Only the voter has to get the printout, check it, and put it in a box. And then do a proper statistical audit according to well-established theory. And the Indian voting system will be a good one. Okay? So this is what we recommend in our system. So I'll stop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banerjee. And Mr. Gopinathan, please give us your experience of how you would like to implement it and what is your experience with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not feeling very well, so pardon me if I'm not at the best possible way of explaining my concerns. I'll start off from where Professor Banerjee left, that the VVPAT is a preferable, or in fact you could say a must-have option. And the way the Indian election is implemented, VVPAT is kind of not ensuring the basic tenets of voter verifiability. It is also not ensuring the audit, the necessary statistical auditing part. So it is neither voter verifiable, it is also not an adequately audited trail, right? The full form of VVPAT is voter verifiable paper audit trail. So if it is not doing the verification part correctly, and if it is not doing the auditing part correctly, then the introduction of VVPAT we cannot claim it has had substantial improvement over the previous election system. Introduction in this way, I would like to clarify that. On top of it, it has also introduced a confusion as to what constitutes a vote. And this is a very old issue because when the EVMs were being trialed in Kerala, I think in 87 or something, the question was that how can you call something that is cast an electronic machine vote, right? The vote is what the voter has actually put in the ballot. How can you call this a vote? And then later amendments were made to make sure that what is actually recorded in the control unit is called as, is now considered as a vote. Now there are two expressions of one intent, right? So I am recording a voter's expression in two different ways, one on a paper and the other on electronic. So again, the question comes as to what is a vote, and the commission is, I would say, not very clear, because in 2019 elections, EVMs were to be counted, but then they later gave a clarification saying that if at all there is a discrepancy between the EVM and the VVPAT, then the VVPAT result should be added onto the result sheet. That would mean that if there is a discrepancy, then the VVPAT should take precedence. Now that's very interesting, because if VVPAT is the one that should take precedence, then that means commission is in a way admitting that VVPAT is what actually the correct will of the voter. And if that is the will of the voter, then we should count every vote, right? And then each and every vote. So it will naturally progress from there, that each and every paper slip should be counted from there. So that's that apart. So one thing is that the VVPAT has not exactly given us the best options that the VVPAT, otherwise a proper VVPAT would have given us. So I think the reason for that is also that we had a very jugaad kind of introduction of VVPAT to our election system. The earlier election system was more or less a trust-based system that, and also at stages that you verify the process whether things are correct or not. So there are mock polls, there were candidate agnostic nature, and then you would call it every EVM is a standalone machine, it's a calculator. So these are terms that every single voter will ask, immediately will reply on a Twitter or any conversation you go into. EVM to एक calculator है, calculator कैसे भाग करोगे? This is a question that will come. Very, very simple question. And because it is standalone, now Wi-Fi is connected, it's not connected to a Wi-Fi, it's not connected to a LAN, it's nothing. It's a standalone device. How can you hack it? Number one. Number two, it can be verified through multiple mock polls. Number three, people don't know who is a voter in which constituency, what is the sequence, serial nature, etc. So this was the defense for the EVMs before. But after VVPAT, I would want actually everybody who's going to go to vote this time around to ask this question, that if a EVM is a standalone machine, how did it print the name and symbol of the voter, of the candidate when you cast the vote, right? When we go to if anybody of us recently voted using a VVPAT machine, we would know that when we press a button, the corresponding name of the candidate and the symbol of the candidate, party or the candidate, and the sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, that will get printed and you will get it through VVPAT. You will not get it, you will see it maybe behind the VVPAT glass ceiling. That's first question to ask, because commission claims that EVMs are standalone machine. Not only that they are standalone machine, in fact, before the 2019 general election, there was a press conference in which it was explicitly stated that it cannot be connected to any other device. And if it cannot be connected to any other device, then how does the VVPAT or the EVM know that I have to print the name of X or Y or Z when a voter is pressing the button? Like 15 days before the elections, most of the candidates themselves will not be knowing whether they are going to contest election from its constituency. Right, like now the elections are going on in UP or any other places. You know that there is a huge fight for constituency. You don't know where you're fighting. You don't know who is fighting. This fight is going on, and so you can assume that it is till around 15 days, the nomination and the final days of scrutiny and the withdrawal, all those things, that you will come to know who are the candidates. If that is when you came to know who are the candidates and the candidate came to know who are the candidates, how did the machine know that these are the candidates and their symbols and their sequences? Right? Now, that's a genuine question that we should have asked the commission, that when you're saying it is an unconnected standalone calculator machine. And then we sort of have kind of missed that question, and that should be asked, because they do connect 15 days or 20 days before the elections. because we conducted the elections, the returning officer. I had this question, I asked this to the Election Commission when we had training there in Delhi. When I came back and conducted the elections, I was particularly curious about it. So what is it that there is laptops are brought in, laptops are connected to the internet. These VVPAT sheets are downloaded, and then the VVPAT sheets from the laptops are connected to devices called a symbol loading unit. I don't think anybody would have heard symbol loading unit in connection with EVMs or elections. It is as integral a part of ballot unit, control unit, and VVPAT as a symbol loading unit. You won't see much literature or discussion on it, right? So before the elections, the laptop is connected to the internet. The VVPAT sheets are generated, the names, symbols, etc. are downloaded to the SLU, and then these SLUs are connected to each machine, each EVM and the VVPAT machine, so that the name of the symbol, the name of the candidate, the symbol and the sequence are uploaded to the VVPAT. And it is done through a serial 9-pin DE cable. And so if you are physically connecting it, none of your previous arguments before the introduction of VVPAT can now be claimed to be correct. So now what we are trying to do is, we are not defending VVPAT based on the strength of the VVPAT, which is verifiability. Verifiability would mean that active verifiability or agency, full agency to the voter, and the auditability, the necessary auditing nature. That was how a VVPAT-based election should have been conducted. Even non-VVPAT election is what was there earlier. I'm not saying that was correct, but it was there. That was defended through certain other sets of, like, it is unconnected, it is, mock polls are there, machines can't know who is the candidate, etc., etc. What we have done now is we have lost both of it. The machines are neither candidate agnostic now. Machines know when I'm pressing one, which vote it is going to where, which party, which candidate, all of it is known. When I'm connecting the EVM to a serial pin cable, I already know that which booth this EVM is going to. Nobody wants to do a full manipulation. You would want to target the manipulation. You would also know that which candidate is at which sequence. You also know that when is going to be an election, when is going to be a mock poll. So all three necessary information is available to you when you're connecting an external device to it. And these external devices are connected. And whenever you ask this question to Commission, which I've asked, written directly to them, and a lot of concerns, but I'm just winding up here. Commission kind of hides behind the technical expert committee or the TEC, that we have referred to the TEC. I have even asked the question directly to the TEC. Then the TEC wouldn't say, TEC will hide behind the Election Commission. So this is kind of an extremely unhealthy thing. The Election Commission does not exist as an authority to tell that you come and vote because we ask you to come and vote. No. Election Commission exists to facilitate and ensure the rights of the citizens to vote. And that accountability, that transparency has to come in from the Commission to the people, right? And that nature, you can't say that, no, we have asked the technical expert committee, they are saying it is okay, fine, we will not. You ask technical expert to come and answer the question directly, one-on-one question. You ask any collector, any district magistrate who is conducting elections and ask them that whether extra SLUs and laptops were brought in the commissioning room or not. You ask them whether they are still in the custody of the collector during the elections are conducted. No, they'll only for 2 days. It is brought in 2 days and then it is taken back. And it is not even in your custody during the elections. It's a custody chain-based election. It is not even in your custody. That was your only thing that you have, right? So we have messed up tremendously. Neither we have taken the strength of VVPAT, nor have we continued with whatever little strength was there of the previous. We have kind of introduced external connections. We have lost the basic arguments of mock polls or tests or anything. We have not even used the strength of VVPAT, which is verifiability, active verifiability, I would say, and the auditing nature, and also the fundamental question as to what constitutes a vote from a voter. So that's all from my side. And with your permissions, I would like. I'm not actually keeping very well, and if I drop off.
So thank you so much. Thanks for your input, and it's very enlightening. And thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, nice evening. And
thank you, Kannan. Thank you, Kannan, for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Kannan. Yeah.
So now I would like to invite Mr. Jabar Sarkar, who has done a tremendous job in West Bengal, and Mr. Dev Sahayam talked about your work, and also he has mentioned in his new book. And so please tell us about what how you have done these kind of solutions in West Bengal, and what can we learn from there? Can you please
need to unmute, sir?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, friend. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Can
Yes.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll attempt it very short to explain that in West Bengal and certain other pockets of India or states of India like Kerala, the consciousness of the voters is very high. So that is one opening advantage that we have. And it was the report on EVMs of the CC was released parallelly in Calcutta on 29th or 30th of January, even before the polls had started or polls were announced. It was immediately circulated in brief, not the whole. I mean, the whole was given, but nobody really went through it, I believe. And I was tasked with the job of making an executive summary of the report in a language in which the people would understand. So it took me some time, and we circulated abstracts and others to the press, but this was a little more specific. The ruling party in Bengal and the opposition parties, including the Communists and the Congress, they were interested in knowing what to guard against. So, since all of them were known to me, I had not joined politics then, and I am not sure how much of it I have joined even now. They asked me in their own different ways to give them some bullet-wise points to guard against. So me and my friends, we could get together and write out in Bengali and English certain points for them. And I believe that the Congress and the Trinamool Congress, that is the ruling party in Bengal, both of them went through it very seriously. I remember they had called me to come and address their party workers, but I declined because that was not my intention to get involved. But then they wanted a tape recorded version or recorded version, so I gave it to them on the telephone. I believe it was played also in the meetings. So this was on EVMs, but there were other and there were three of them. Unfortunate that two of them went and created one front, and the third was also there fighting. So the secular votes in Bengal were split. In spite of that, as you know, and that is exactly the experience that I've tried to bring forth in this book through two chapters. One chapter explains the political culture of West Bengal, and I think we have gone into pains in writing that, but the purpose was to bring home the point that each state or each region has a political culture, and that needs to be studied as well, because you can't have one shirt fits all the time and expect to win. We have to look at each region, each state separately to see how the messaging and how the alert against non-democratic forces can be got across. So I have given one chapter on the political culture in considerable details, and it's no holds barred. I had no idea that I would be sort of co-opted by a political party in some sort of associate way. I'm not directly in politics, even now, in an associate way, and taken to the upper house of parliament. But so this was written prior to that, and it's quite objective because at least I think so, because at times I've pulled up the ruling party as well. Never mind, the political culture, focus on political culture is something that doesn't require great skills of history or anthropology. All it requires is a rational mind and an observational aptitude. That's all. And to sum it up together, I had the advantage of an institution that you may have heard of called the Bengali Adda. An Adda is a discussion that starts with a draft proposition. Somebody suggests a proposition and others either agree with him, substantiate with more examples, or rebut it. These free for all Addas, as we call it, group discussions, which happens most spontaneously in Bengal over the last 2 centuries at least, more than 2 centuries, also help us formulate our ideas and get through the possible negative points within our own postulates. Never mind. So that's the first way we went in. And the second part deals with how the elections were conducted. For those who would like to know, the BJP had scored very well in the elections prior to this in 2019 in the parliament elections and had reached an amazing 42% of the popular vote, which is outstanding by any yardstick. To give you an idea, Prime Minister Modi came to power on a tsunami of votes at 31% of the popular vote in 2014. And this went up to something like 36%, I think it's 36% in 2019. As compared to that, the BJP had got 42% of the popular vote in Bengal in 2019, the vote that is the election prior to this one. And this time, Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, made it a point to get Bengal at any cost. Money was pumped in freely. People were won over. Defections were engineered, if I may put it. The press was mainly on their side. And the whole situation has been explained in the other chapter that I'm talking about. In these circumstances, the net result, I'm coming fast forwarding to the end result of the 2021 elections. And the end result is that Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress secured a whopping 48% of the popular vote. Astounding. Nobody gets such a vote. 48% of the popular vote in Bengal went to only one party and one leader. The Marxists and the left front and the Congress that had tied up together with an Muslim party were wiped off from Bengal. Again, to put it in context, the Marxists and the left front had ruled Bengal for 34 unbroken years till recently. 34 years. And they scored zero, zero in the last polls. That is how people vote in that state. The Congress had ruled West Bengal for 25 years and always had a loyal base. The Congress scored zero, again zero. And Mamata Banerjee procured, together they got around 6% of the popular vote. Two parties that are... Now, the point is not of strategy or election messaging. The way we look at it is that there is a latent power in people that we have seen in 1977 as well, when there was practically no other party available for contest in India. This is the time when Mrs. Gandhi declared her intention to go in for popular elections, and she lost badly. Till the last minute, she and the media and her advisors had all said that she would come through with a thumping majority. She got nothing. So there is this pent-up thing about in people, which we hope would be coming out in India very soon. But they have to, this spirit has to be dealt with rather carefully. What Ms. Banerjee had done was to put a few points across. Number one, absolutely zero tolerance of communal divisive forces, zero. She went to the extent of wearing a hijab, a Muslim dress, and praying with them. She said, let them say what they feel like. They called her Pakistani, they called her Bangladeshi, they called her all sorts of things, but she just stuck to it and said that these people are being slaughtered, are being attacked in India, and I stand beside them. So this served. There are other parts of the political culture that has been outlined in this book. Putting all these together, the fairness of the election machine also counts a lot. This counts a lot. Now, once the state government was keen to see that there was no dithering among the returning officers, she made the message clear. Now, the Election Commission, on the other hand, wanted to prove that everything was wrong. But to do that, they sent a record number of observers from other states and other departments on a fault-finding mission, and they could come up with absolutely nothing till the last day of the polls. Okay. The police forces, Central Armed Police Forces, as we call them, were brought into the state, and they were about 40% higher than the combined forces of the Calcutta Police and Bengal Police put together. In other words, the armed police forces on patrolling duty and preventive duty, guard duty in Bengal was there, as happens every time in sensitive polling booths. But the central forces were about 140% of their number. In other words, there was a tussle, more of a psychological and physical warfare going on. It is unfortunate that immediately after polling results were declared, there was a series of violence, and that's still being probed into. Many say this was the pent-up thing that was going on for 6 months, watching Central Troops. Many say there are various reasons. I'll not get into it. Now, to sum it all up, political culture matters a lot. Alertness matters more. And what mattered in this case was that Mamata Banerjee put forth an aggressive stand of no compromise. We'll take you, we'll fight with you on the land, on the beaches, on the sea, on the air, wherever you want. That stand, whereby people who are politically reasonably neutral, or people who are politically opposed to her policies, but more opposed to communalizing politics in India or to minority baiting in India, they chose to go with her. They abandoned the left front, which is known to be secular. They abandoned the Congress, which is also known to be secular, because they didn't want the left votes to split. The last interesting point is that throughout the elections, everyone predicted that Prime Minister and the Home Minister, or rather Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah, had got Bengal into their bag. They were looking into the bag every now and then and telling people that they had got 220 out of 294 seats. The speculation was whether the number would be 220 or 230 or 240. There was nothing short of that. Cooler political analysts kept saying that whoever wins would be getting around 52-53%. That's all. So you had these two predictions for 52% to either group or 220 to the BJP. The opposite happened. Just the opposite happened. Till the last minute, nobody could predict. who was winning, and everyone was taken aback. I have a feeling that even the chief minister was taken aback. But never mind. The point I'm making here is that once people are determined, they don't speak their minds out. So all the pollsters and all the exit polls went wrong. And so we can't go by those analysis and that amount of political astrology. If the people are made up with their minds and there is certain amount of formalized opposition, formalized gathering of forces opposed to unconstitutional measures in place, there is every chance that Bengal may be repeated all over India. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Sarkar. Thank you. I think you're right about it, but I think transparency is very important. If everything is transparent or whatever is going on through VVPAT or through other means, then there are a lot of cases when it is not so clear as in Bengal. There could be a lot of fuzzy situations. And I would like Mr. Venkatesh Naik to talk about his RTI movement and what it is trying to bring to this electoral process and how the transparency can save us from various limitations or constraints of electoral system the way it is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maravia. I hope I'm audible and visible. I thank the organizers for this opportunity to present my experience of using right to information to make the electronic voting system a little more transparent. Now, why do I want the electronic voting system to be more transparent? It starts with the basic premise that I am a voting, tax-paying citizen of India, and I don't go and vote in the elections because the Election Commission has announced a schedule or because political parties are coming and canvassing, saying vote for us, or because my home, my folks or my relatives or my friends tell me in which way I should be voting for consideration. There is a section 14 in the Representation of People Act, which not many people pay attention to. Once the Election Commission has announced the schedule of elections, the President of India calls upon all eligible voters to come and vote in the elections through an official declaration. Very few people see it. Similarly, when general elections are announced, the governor of the concerned state issues a gazette notification inviting all eligible voters to come and vote in. That is what is the invitation, the official invitation to the voter in this country to come and participate in elections. So when I'm invited to vote in elections, I must be reasonably confident about the methodology of selection of the candidate to be sent to Parliament or the state legislatures. When paper ballots were there was clarity. You would go and press the impression or the party symbol and then fold it and put it in the ballot box. And that would be counted. There were electoral malpractices. We will not get into that right now because it's not the time. But when I'm called upon to press on a button on a machine, and for the reasons which Professor Banerjee and Mr. Devasahayam pointed out, that we don't, and Mr. Kannan Gopinathan most importantly, pointed out that we don't even get to touch the VVPAT slip. It falls down on its own, and if I'm not lucky, the VVPAT machine of the polling booth where I went and cast my vote may not even be, the VVPAT slips may not even be counted because it's a draw of lots for identifying which VVPAT machine will be used for pulling out the VVPAT slips and verifying the electronic vote count on the CPU of the EPA. In order to be convinced that this is a foolproof mechanism, I need information. And that information is available only in a very limited fashion from the Election Commission of India. That is why the RTI interventions have happened. That the information that that the Election Commission of India, which is mandated constitutionally to manage, supervise and ensure free and fair elections in India, is not adequately transparent about the electronic voting machines. I have also done RTI interventions with relation to electoral bonds, but I don't want to get into that because time is very short. Let me just stick to what has happened with electronic voting machines. Number one, if you pick up the electronic voting manual, the machine manual, EVM manual, which is displayed there on the Election Commission website, you will find a statement there which says that the microcontroller or the microchip that is used in the EVMs is one-time programmable, which means once you write the program onto that chip, it cannot be erased, you cannot see it, it can't be verified, and once that chip is burnt into the chassis of the EVM, it remains there and it is untamperable. Good. But will you tell us who is manufacturing these chips? That was my RTI intervention. Tell us the name of the maker of these microcontrollers. And it so happened that one of the two companies which mentioned where I filed the RTI gave me not only the name of the chip manufacturer, but they also gave me the model number. I had not asked for it. So it was a lucky, chance that I managed to get the additional information. Out of sheer curiosity, like an intelligent human being will have, I checked up the specifications of that particular microcontroller. And that specification on the company's website very clearly showed that the memory chip has 3 parts. I am not a technical expert. Professor Banerjee and Mr. Gopinathan will know this much better. But there are 3 kinds of memories. One is something called EEPROM, one is flash memory, and another is a RAM memory. Now, in one of these 3, the flash memory is something that is rewritable, just like your flash drive, just like your pen drive, or what you call a USB drive, which means that the entire chip is not one-time programmable. That microcontroller has certain portions which are one-time programmable, but what we know from other technical experts is that the one-time programmable component of the memory of the microchip contains only proprietary information about the maker, manufacturer, and the specifications of that chip. The rest of the memory space is rewritable. If a memory chip is one-time programmable only, as the commission says, of course, the program part, we can leave it at, aside. How are the symbols are going to be loaded onto the machine? You obviously have to get into the microcontroller, no? In order to be able to make the choice, because the microcontroller is the brain of the EVM and the VVPAT. So if you tell me it is one-time programmable and leave me to believe that, how am I going to trust you when your own data, along with what the manufacturer has put on the website, indicates that it is not one-time programmable throughout? There are certain portions that are rewritable. Till date, after I made this public through news media, the Election Commission has not come back to say, Mr. Nayak, you are talking nonsense. This is the reason why we believe it is one-time program. So anyway, then I asked for details of the software audit. How did I get to know that there is a software audit? Because Election Commission of India, in response to one of my RTI interventions, gave me copies of Technical Evaluation Committee reports from 1997 to 2016. And in one of the reports, after examining complaints that machines are tamperable because the software can be tampered, there were only complaints. There was nothing established. The Technical Evaluation Committee said that yes, in order to do away with these rumors and satisfy everybody that the machines are not tamperable, every microcontroller chip into which the program is written must be audited in terms of the fidelity with the original software. You have a software that is actually written up initially and then it is burnt into the microcontroller. So then a software audit alone will tell you whether that microcontroller contains faithfully the program which was written into it and which is supposed to perform the job that is expected of it. Now, this business of doing the audit, another company which manufactures EVMs told me, is performed by what is called the Standards Testing and Quality Control Directorate under the Department of Electronics and Information Technology. So I filed an RTI application with them saying, please tell me, what is the methodology you use for software audit? Do you do it at your premises or do you do it at the premises of the manufacturing of the EVMs, or do you hire third parties? Most of the information and what kind of manuals do you use for conducting this software audit? Most of the information was denied. Matter went all the way up to the Central Information Commission after 2 years of this back and forth in appeals and etc. etc. The Information Commission last September said that this is information of public interest. So if you are saying that there is commercial confidence involved of the companies who are manufacturing, then try and remove that information which may reveal anything that is commercially harmful if revealed to the public, but give the rest of the information. Today we are at the end of January 2022. I am still waiting for a response from the STQC as far as this commission's order is concerned. There is a huge amount of lack of transparency vis-a-vis the machines. So when you call upon people to trust transparent about what is inside the machines, in the hackathons that the Election Commission conducts, you are not even allowed to open the machine. You are supposed to come and just press the buttons and show whether it is tamperable or not tamperable. How do you do that? So there are huge questions involved. But let us leave the RTI interventions aside. I want to share some public domain information that I have researched, and I want to put this in front of everybody for their consideration and action, not just consideration. This is not just a parlor room, tea party conversation and we go back. There are some very serious issues that are involved here. In July 2018, 10 months before the Lok Sabha elections of 2019 were conducted, Indian Express did an expose based on RTI. And they got hold of a lot of correspondence from the Election Commission where it was seen that the Prime Minister's office was pressurizing the Election Commission of India to procure EVMs from the open market because one of the two manufacturing companies was falling very badly behind schedule in terms of delivery of new machines for the elections. To its credit, the Election Commission of India stood its ground and said, with sufficient reasoning, as to why open market purchases are not permissible, they are not reliable, and they decided to go ahead with the two companies which are given the contract for supplying those machines election after election, and elections were conducted. Now, how is it that these two companies have the contracts for buying these machines, for supplying these machines? That is simply because in the year 2001, they applied for patents on the EVMs. They were granted. No other company in India has patents on EVM today. But the reason why I refer to that Indian Express report is this. Last year, April and May 2021, the validity of those patents has expired. Under the Indian Patents Law, patent on anything that has been invented and the patent controller is convinced that yes, it is a new invention, it is novelty, it's got commercial viability, the patent is given only for a 20-year period. It is not eternal. It's only for a 20-year period. So today the EVMs don't have patents. So the floor is open for anybody within government with sufficient influence to insist that EVMs can be purchased from the open market also. What is going to happen if that decision is taken? I leave it to your imagination and action further. Now, my last point, VVPATs. We have all been going and pressing our, the EVM machines, and we have seen that the VVPAT slip comes out. I participated in an election where VVPATs were used. I was satisfied that yes, the button that I pressed was exactly the result that the VVPAT slip showed, and it fell into the box. But believe you me, the VVPAT machines are not yet patented. The patent application is still pending before the patent controller. Only one company out of the two has applied for patents. And you will be surprised to know that in December 2020, the patent examiner, who does a statutory job, wrote back to the patent controller and said that this company is only seeking patents on something that functions like a software. There is nothing new in the machines that they have created, and under the Indian Patents Act, software cannot be patented. That was their objection. And then, of course, the applicant company went back and gave a whole lot of arguments saying why they should get the patent. Please remember, even when the EVM's patent application was pending between 2001 and 2006, it was granted in 2006, but the 20-year period is counted from the date of filing the application. Even then, the patent examiner had said, these EVMs are nothing new. These EVM kinds of machines are already patented in the US and other countries. So there is nothing novel about this. So patent should not be given. But somehow they made the arguments and they won their patent. And they are going to win the patents for the VVPAT machines also without adequate levels of transparency. Kannan mentioned that symbol loading unit. I am one of the few people who actually has read up about a little bit about symbol loading units, which is available on the Election Commission website. And I asked for a copy of the symbol loading unit manual. VVPAT manual is available on the ECI website. EVM manual is available on the VVPAT website. Symbol loading unit manual is not available on the Election Commission website. Why? It has been denied to me. Both companies have refused access, and unfortunately, the Central Information Commission referred the matter back to them in the second appeal and said, you decide again. This fellow is saying public interest requires symbol loading unit manuals to be in the public domain, so decide on the case and come back. They have once again said, after the CIC's order, irrespective of the arguments that I have placed saying why this matter should be transparent, the companies have come back and said we can't make symbol loading units transparent. The question is why? We should ask this. These matters should be challenged before courts. I am planning to challenge these decisions of refusal through judicial review before the high courts. Hopefully the courts might take it up seriously, we don't know. But what is important is this, and this is my last point. It's not enough for one person or two persons or a small group of people like Citizens Commission on Elections to be raising these issues again and again. Those of us who raise these issues of lack of transparency are always criticized by saying that you are all the naysayers. You don't question EVMs when a party of your choice wins. It is only the losing candidates who question EVMs and they raise issues about tamperability. Obviously, it is basic common sense. Why will a winner in an election where the results have come through an electronic voting machine question the election voting machine, bhaiya? It is only a loser who will question, no? Duh. It's common sense. So the loser has to be convinced. After all, what is the first principle of elections? The voter has to be convinced that his choice of the candidate has been faithfully recorded and counted, and the loser in elections he has lost least connected with the EVMs are not operating in an atmosphere that is free from doubt. In West Bengal also, the losing parties raised issues about tamperability of EVMs and questioned their reliability after the most recent elections of 2021. But it didn't really get as much publicity as it has. So every losing candidate, every losing party raises questions about EVMs. So when this is the issue, the Election Commission of India really has to take steps to make more and more information about the internal working of these machines transparent. That is how you build people's confidence, because otherwise these questions will continue to be there. Today, I would like to point out to you that the cloud of doubt hanging on EVMs has become part of folklore. There are all these stand-up comedians, and if you go to YouTube, I can't remember the name of the gentleman. He was doing a stand-up comedy, session in one event, and he said that, look, there is a huge problem of political alliances and loyalties in Jammu and Kashmir. So how do you ascertain who is loyal to? So he cracked a joke saying that the best way of testing loyalty towards political parties in Jammu and Kashmir is by simply getting everybody there to vote on EVM. Everybody will vote for BJP. And the entire audience laughed. Why? Because it's part of folklore now. They know that yes, we are called upon to go and vote, press the button on the EVMs, but whether the results will accurately echo our choices is not something we can verify. So they have left it for others to fight the battles for them. Now these others are nobody else except citizen taxpayers like you and I. It's not enough for just a handful of us. Every one of us, including those who go and press, my last point, including those who go and press Nota button. To ensure that the Nota button also is faithfully recorded in the VVPAT slip, they have to make transparency to a much higher degree through the Election Commission and the manufacturing companies.
No, absolutely right.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope all of you take up the challenge of improving levels of transparency in.
No, thanks for your work, and it's absolutely important for transparency to be there for the whole electoral process from end to end. Otherwise, it has no validity, and so the democracy is in danger. I think obvious danger because of that. Mudit, you have questions? Please go ahead, and then we can open the floor for more questions.
Yeah, my first question is to Professor Banerjee and Mr. Devasayam. So, since there are loopholes in the existing electoral process, and in particular to VVPAT and EVM, are there any petitions in the courts by CCE regarding this? And how do you see in long term and short term, how do you see these issues getting addressed?
I think Mr. Devasayam.
Yeah, I think I would answer this question. See, I didn't have much time in the beginning. See, we all sort of exercised all the options. We started in 2018. This apprehension was there. Most of what Venkat said, apprehension was there. We had other feedback. And we started the process in early 2018, where you said, listen, electronic voting machine system is a highly nefarious kind of system. The same thing, there's no democracy principles. And now you are introducing VVPAT, and this process of counting, cross-counting, we ask for 30%, and make sure it's done upfront. First verify, and then count the full vote and declare the election. See, declaration of election is a very, very critical, very sacred kind of duty. Now, there was no response from the Election Commission, and they only repeated that EVM manual that Venkat is talking about, and that was nothing. They did never have they addressed the word called democracy principles. Democracy principle was anathema to them, in spite of such a very important judgment given by the German Supreme Court. It was very clear, they threw out EVM, only on the democracy principles. So then, constitutional content, that I had taken up as a forum of electoral integrity. Then I approached the constitutional content group. We are the group of former senior civil servants. We had a very well attended conclave where Qureshi was there, another former chief election commissioner was there, the election commission was represented. This was debated in great detail. Again, election commission, the technical member came, the chairman of the technical committee did come, but he did not answer to any of our democracy principles. He did not even answer. He was only serenading the technical aspects. Then we kept on interacting with the election commission. They would not budge. Then we went to the Supreme Court, not as constitutional content group, but as individuals, myself and a couple of others. Supreme Court also did not look at it all from that point of view at all. The Chief Justice of India did not give any importance to that. And in fact, Election Commission of India filed false affidavit in the Supreme Court. It's all in the book. It's all in the CCR report. So after going through the entire process, we have now come to the CCE, and this report came out. And we are very reluctant to go to the court because somehow or other, as I told earlier, courts in India, democracy is no issue for them. It is a ritual. So Election Commission was mandated. They just casually mentioned, instead of doing one EVM, do 5. Even then immediately we asked for the decision rule. Should it be done before the counting starts? No decision rule. No, what the tamasha now happening is now, as Venkat is saying, election counting starts. They don't, no cross counting takes place. As he said, there are 2 votes. One is recorded in the machine, one is recorded in the slip that comes out. Slip is not at all counted. And stage-wise election is announced. By the time evening comes, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, celebrations conclude. And by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, everybody is fatigued. And after that, everything is over. Singing and dancing is over. They go to the motion of counting 5. So it's a fabulously, fraudulent kind of election taking place. I am being very candid about it because unless we face it square. So it's not that we have not thought, even now, people are very reluctant. After the election is over, let me complete. After the elections are over, immediately thereafter, Association for Democratic Reforms, which is headed by Jagdeep Chokar and Tarlochan Sastry, they went through the whole report. They are a watchdog. And they found mismatch in 343 seats. From 1 vote to 1 lakh vote. And they gave proof. In 8 constituencies, the winning candidate had margin was, the mismatch was more than the winning candidates. And my colleague, he is here, Surendranath, pointed out to the Election Commission one particular case where the actual vote was only 480 or something, actually about 840 votes were polled. He gave elaborately, give details and gave a question to the Election Commission, and they just said just acknowledged saying that no, we will take care of it. Nothing. Nobody took care of anything. So election commission is functioning like a kind of politburo. It is totally non-transparent. It is impetuous, and it is in a way they consider themselves infallible. They will order the people to come to vote, and you just like sheep, you have to go and vote, and they will say this is accounting. So the present electoral process, now the only people can make a change. We have lost faith in the institutions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Devashyam, for doing all the work that you, along with the people involved with the forum, have been doing. And my next question is to Jabar Sarkar ji. So thank you so much for explaining the steps taken by the incumbent government in West Bengal. My question to you, sir, is what could have been done to ensure the fairness in elections had TMC not been in power? Because in this case, TMC was in power, and it seems the steps taken were possible because it was there. So do you see that there is anything that the parties can do to prevent if they are not in power?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. You see, it's not only the TMC, this has happened with the other parties in the past too. Because I mentioned about the level of political consciousness. It cuts both ways. They spend too much time in politics than in many constructive things. So let's take it in that spirit. But then in the middle of the 70s, a trend began in Bengal called mass rigging. Now, this was not like states in northern India like Bihar or UP, where gangsters would go and capture polling booths, so to say, and stuff ballot papers into the ballot boxes. That was their style. This was done more subtly, in the sense that the electoral rolls themselves were utilized. When I say utilized, it means that in every electoral roll, in those days at least, there was a large number of voters who had left or died. These were marked out by the then ruling party, and maybe by other parties as well. And false votes were cast in the name of people who had left or were dead. I have first-hand knowledge because I conducted the 1998 and the 1999 parliament elections as the chief electoral officer of West Bengal. And we had got many cases right-hand. Now, the point is that political consciousness was also very high, because even when this was happening, the hue and cry was much too much. So that is one. The other is that the consciousness goes even to the level of illiterate voters, completely illiterate, but they know by gut feeling. As CEO, I had come across literally dozens of cases where complaints did not come were not manipulated by political parties, but by common citizens, illiterate citizens, where intervention had to take place. So this sort of thing helps. The TMC had been a victim of this during the left front regime, though towards the end, the left front, these techniques, at least that was mainly the allegation, it would never be proved, so to say.
I think he removed himself by mistake, I guess.
Right. So, meanwhile, he joins in. We have questions from Siva and then from Surendranath. So, Ashutosh, should we start taking up the questions from
Yes,
the
please.
audience?
Yes, please.
Siva, would you like to go ahead with your question?
Yeah. It's like this. Actually, I'm a petitioner with the Central Election Commission and as well as the State Election Commission. And I've been writing right from Honorable President to every functioning office, constitutional functioning office, and all the political leaders. On December 7th, 2018 elections, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
December 7, 2018 elections held here in Telangana. So, my petition was the constitutional violations, and how is that the Central Election Commission, in spite of the complaints with evidences, has not taken cognizance of it and went ahead. And because the People's Representation Act clearly denotes that the Central Election Commission or Election Commission's job is to facilitate all those eligible voters to exercise their franchise as and when the election happens, and to see that all those eligible voters exercise their franchise in a free and fair election. And this is what the basic structure of our constitution defines, as accepted by even the Supreme Courts. So in this, my complaint was September 1, 2018, the Telangana Chief Electoral Officer, the then Mr. Rajat Kumar, he comes out with a GO stating that all those eligible voters should complete exercising, their right to vote, to say register, by November 30th. October 30th to scrutiny, and November 30th any objections or any appeals should be completed. Thereby, the electoral rolls will be published in January end or February 2019. That means all those eligible till that time can be included in that electoral list. So, on September 15th, the Chief Minister of the then, now he is also the present Chief Minister, Mr. Kalavakuntla Chandrasekhar Rao, addresses a press conference whereby he goes for the dissolution of the assembly and announces candidates, 101 candidates. Prior to that, he states that he has been to Delhi, he has spoken to the Central Election Commission officials, and so that the elections will be held the very next month. Believe me, it was such a shocking, and there was no constitutional urgency for such a dissolution. And immediately following this, September 9th, if I remember it aptly correct, the same Telangana Chief Electoral Officer comes up with another GO going back on this earlier September 1 GO, stating that all the process of objections, appeals will be completed by that September month itself, in tune with the Honorable Chief Minister's press conference of September 5th, stating that the elections will be held in the October itself. That is when I petitioned and asking the Central Election Commission, how is that the eligible voters, their right to franchise is being taken away when there is no constitutional emergency, and the first tenure of the Telangana Assembly is there till April 2019, and elections along with general elections was the first priority or choice. And what made you to prepone and accept the dissolution, and at the cost of the eligible voters losing their right to franchise? Believe me, the Telangana Chief Electoral Officer came out, it is all there in the public domain in the papers, lakhs of the eligible voters were denied their right to franchise to elect members to the Constituent Assembly, and promising that they will all get their right to elect in the Parliament general elections. This was
can we have the question, please?
Yeah, this is the question. I asked them, what made the Telangana Chief Electoral Officer to go back on his own September 1 GO? And is it not that he's trying to help the party in power who had already announced the candidates and who is on record stating that he has already spoken to central election officers? So how can this election be called as a free and fair election? Till now, 15 complaint IDs were given, and August 5th, 2020, Mr. Bobde, Chief Justice, was about to accept my bill, but reasons best known, the Honorable Chief Minister goes to Delhi, supports something, blah blah, Rajya Chairman, my petition could not go through, and after that I get complaint IDs. That is one. The second aspect is the polling percentage. This is one thing. Very prudently, we said not allowing other parties to have that free and fair election and then not allowing the eligible to exercise their right to franchise. The second aspect is the polling time was to end at 5, 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. they were given that this is the polling percentage. And the polls end at 5. Believe me, after 5, throughout that day, there was no polling percentage given by the Telangana Chief Electoral Officer. And I said it was 30%. I'm just giving and quoting an example in one constituency. All of a sudden, after 24 to 28 hours, which I've gone on live also on my satellite channel, on Midday Politics Live also, all of a sudden, there was a jump to 70%. Then I wrote, kindly provide me the evidences, those video recordings, or like in Andhra Pradesh, the entire electorate were standing in the queue even late in the night to exercise their franchise. Because if it is more than 30 or 40%, you imagine you will have such a huge queues. And where is the recording? I asked them, how is that you have arrived this figure?
Siva, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we have the question, please?
Question, yeah. I've asked them to. I've asked them to provide. I'm finishing.
To the panelists.
I've asked them to provide the evidences of video recording or anything like that wherein it matches the voting percentage as found in Andhra Pradesh. And then I asked for the signing of those registers. How is that? How many of them signed those registers? 14A or whatever C you call. And then when was these EVMs signed and sent to the strong rooms? I asked for these details. Till this day, nothing has come out. The same happened in Hyderabad Parliament constituency. I wrote them with evidences. Nothing has happened. And how can you say that people participatory constitutional democracy elections are being held in a free and fair way? I don't understand. I hope the learned people will
thank
answer.
you. Thank you, Mr. Reddy. I think you're basically agreeing with the panel here and asking for more from the government and from the people, actually. So any comments, Mr. Dev Sahayam? Or
Very simple answer. Chief Electoral Officer is not an independent authority. He functions under the dictate of the Chief Election Commission of India. So Venkatesh has already answered all your questions. The total non-transparency. So that is how the Election Commission is functioning. I don't think there's more to answer to this.
Thank you.
The Surendranath is asked.
Yeah, let's go to Surendranath. You have a question. Please put it to one of the panelists and please go ahead with your question. You need to unmute yourself.
Surendra, unmute.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Actually, my point is actually an observation on the opportunities we have at present, given that the elections to these 5 state assemblies are only about 2 weeks hence. So, since we are interested in democracy and we should be concerned with what is the priority at this juncture, which is very close to an upcoming elections. And it is quite clear that the protection of democracy is the biggest concern of the voter. And democracy is under threat because of very many things, weak institutions, problems with EVM, there being no leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha. So as we know, the backbone of a good democracy is a strong opposition. And Mr. Jabar Sarkar mentioned that the voter in West Bengal was wise and he did not allow his votes to be split, and he voted with a resolved mind. So at this juncture, when the voter is seized of a lot of propaganda, there is need for every citizen, including us, to clarify the main dangers which the voter is facing, because the power of the voter comes from democracy. And if democracy is under threat, the voter is under threat. And how does he defend himself? By voting for a strong opposition, not allowing the vote to be split as they did in West Bengal. So that message, I think we should pass on, and since the time is running out, we should do it. And many of us are go to the public domain, and I would also keep that thought in mind. And I thought I will share this with like-minded people here. That's the point I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Surendra, because there are senior people from Uttar Pradesh who is present in this meeting. I hope they will take it forward. I am sure that's the purpose of organizing this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Surendra ji. So we are towards the end of the meeting. If there is any further question, or we can take one more question, or we'll end the meeting. So meanwhile, if someone has a question, he can come up with that on the chat window, or you can unmute yourself. While we are closing the meeting, I would like to check if Dr. Sandeep Pandey is present, and would he like to come up and conclude the meeting?
Mudit, thank you for inviting me. I'm very sorry. I had insisted that this session be organized at the earliest possible, so that we can do whatever we have to do regarding the upcoming elections in Uttar Pradesh and other states. But I got late by an hour because I was delivering these, voters lists to my candidates, which I got printed with the help of a friend. Otherwise, we would have to pay a huge sum of money to the government. So I am sorry that I was not able to listen to most of the speakers. I just heard Venkatesh Naik. What I would like to know from the experts, because in the last Lok Sabha elections, I was very shocked that in UP and Bihar, where I went for campaigning, almost everybody told me that, the opposition parties were going to win. And when the results came out, we were shocked that candidates won by, margins of more than 1 lakh votes, which we have not seen in earlier elections, the BJP candidates. And obviously there was a manipulation. So I heard that, whatever the election commission does,
దీంట్లో కనెక్ట్ అయ్యింది. బ్లూటూత్ ఆఫ్ చేయి ఫస్ట్. అవి అన్నయ్య కనెక్ట్ చేస్తాడు తెచ్చి.
ఎందుకు కనెక్ట్ చేసిండ్రు అది బంద్
నేను బంద్ చేయడానికి రాదు, దాని నుంచి డిస్కనెక్ట్ చేయాలి. సెట్టింగ్స్కి పోయి బ్లూటూత్ ఆఫ్ చేయి.
వాడిని పిలిచి కూడా అరే ఎందుకు అది ఆన్ చేస్తున్నాడు, దాన్ని దీనికి ఎందుకు పెడుతున్నాడు రా వాడు. మొన్న కూడా అట్లే చేసాడు. ఇదేంది చూడు.
And insist on VVPATs being counted. What the Election Commission has sworn before the Supreme Court, a very obliging Supreme Court of Justice Gogoi at that time. He's my colleague, sits quite close to me when he does come to the Rajya Sabha, which is infrequent. is that only that it takes 5 to 6 days, 5 to 6 days delay if we count the VVPAT votes, that's the paper slips. Now, I have conducted more elections than the present commissioner, chief commissioner, and many of us have actually done it. So let's not beat around the bush. We'll nail the lie in the Supreme Court and insist that the Supreme Court either gives 100% VVPAT slip in them. That's the only hope that I see, apart from other techniques of getting the opposition to fight less. Even our people are doing a lot of fighting, but never mind. So those can be worked out politically by those who know politics more than me. But this one, I think we should hammer, absolutely hammer. Go to the Supreme Court, and the present highest dispensation in the Supreme Court has been the boldest we have seen in the last 5 to 6 years.
Yes.
So God help the country.
Jawahar,
if I may comment for a moment,
yes,
I had
yes, Subhashis.
So in this context, I had prepared on request from Mr. Derek O'Brien of TMC a checklist that you can do at the polling station before the election to ensure, under the current circumstances, given all the constraints, some safeguards that you can take. So if it is of interest, I can mail that thing to you through Mr.
Yes, yes. And in fact, Mr. Banerjee, Dr. Banerjee, that was also read out. Your document, your points were also read out by the political parties.
Let me come in there, because I was the petitioner in front of the Honorable Gogoi. Besides the political parties, I was the main
MP.
petitioner from the civil society. You see, there's a practical problem, Jawahar, because the judgment says only 5. When the decision rule was asked for, should it be done upfront? They didn't give any decision rules. As of now, neither Election Commission nor Supreme Court has laid down the decision rules that even this petty 5 EVM should be counted, fully counted and tallied before the main counting starts. So the question is, Election Commission, even if now they can do it, Election Commission has got full authority. Supreme Court doesn't come into the picture at all. This is an exclusive jurisdiction of the Election Commission of India. But Election Commission is the one who is playing fraud. I am using very harsh words. So if you can put pressure from the state side, political parties, civil society, and tell them at least the 5 per constituency, count it first, tally it with, because these 5 must be taken up sporadically at random. It will instill some kind of fear from manipulation. So one thing I think Mr. Sandeep Pandey and others can do is put immense pressure on the Election Commission of India. Take a decision rule straight away. That will take only not even 24 hours. It's already on the burning kind of thing. So that is one thing. Plus the steps that Subhashis Banerjee has stepped on checklist will be of great value. Only a massive counter push by the civil society, because political parties have always got restrictions. The moment they will be branded as loser. Only civil society can save the system now. You are, I don't think you are mainly a civil society leader as I look at it. And there are other people, Mr. Ganesh Diwar is here, Mr. Chaudhary is here, others are here. You take it up as a major campaign so that some cross verification takes place and other checklist. Because the Election Commission know that they are being closely watched. That's what Jawahar achieved in West Bengal. The moment Election Commission know that you are watching their back, their front, their side, they will backtrack. They backtrack. They had a plan to manipulate in West Bengal. I know it. I have inside information. I can't convey it openly. I have confided with Jawahar. They had a plan. They had a man posted. And Election Commission, West Bengal did the pushback targeting that particular individual. He is no longer in the commission now. He has left his tenure is over. So I think put election commission on the back foot, and that then they will back up. Otherwise, this manipulation will take place. That is the only strategy which can do now. There's hardly any days left.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pandey, you want to add something?
No. I will individually communicate with Mr. Dev Sahayam, Subhasis Banerjee ji, and Jabar Sarkar ji, and I will find out precisely what is to be done, and we will do it before the election starts. We will file a petition in the Supreme Court, and we will write to the Election Commission, as Mr. Dev Sahayam has been suggesting. I will also speak to Venkatesh to see what else can be done.
Actually, Mr. Pandey, all the material is ready. I can share all the material with you. And advocates are known. Delhi advocates are known. They will be more than willing to help. And now Sarim Naved is one advocate. Prasanna is another advocate. They will be more than willing to help. You can kickstart the process straight away. But the attack should be on the election commission from the public also. People also must. Not only the court.
Right.
Court may not give you a relief in such a short time.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And I think we can make Professor Banerjee's list also public, that it should be widely available for others in different states to follow that.
That will be very useful. Yes.
If we can share it, we can display it on the screen also now, if he has it ready. Before we end up, they can watch, entire India can watch, world can watch. That will be a big thing. If we share,
so I have it in my laptop somewhere. It will take some time to look it up. I'll mail it to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I think we are at the end of the whole session. It was very productive. Thank you all for your time and passion and energy and knowledge. So I think thank you so much. And we should, this is the beginning. We have to keep fighting. We have to do more of these sessions. And sorry for the technical glitches and problems.
Mr. Malavi, I would suggest one thing to Pandey also, Mr. Pandey also. Let us have a session in Hindi. I can speak Hindi. No problem. Okay. Everybody can speak Hindi.
Bilkul.
Venkatesh also, I think, can speak Hindi, right?
Yes, perfect.
So have large participation. We will do it in Hindi.
Definitely.
Next week itself.
Yes.
Next week itself. Don't delay it.
We will do it in Hindi.
Yeah, we should do it. We should do it before the polling starts.
Yeah.
As quickly as possible, please.
And hopefully, in the meantime, we would have taken some steps. So we can also
much larger participation of activists and other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And good night. And thanks everyone.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.